Living in Malaysia versus living in Thailand, which is better? Today we're going to talk about several visa options the countries have to offer, the best places to live in, and the dating scene in both countries. Let's get started talking about the retirement visa situation in Thailand. It is nothing new for me to tell you that Thailand is among the top countries for retirees in the entire world. How does it look like if you want to go to Thailand and live in Thailand on a retirement visa? Thailand got a retirement visa. In order for you to qualify for the retirement visa, you are required to have a monthly income of $2,000. Now, if we take a look at $2,000, seems to be an amount that's very possible for a lot of people because you can prove it through a pension, Social Security, some kind of retirement plan, but the Thai government wants to see that you have some kind of security. That is one option. Option two is to deposit $25,000 into a Thai bank account. So you have these distinct options. Malaysia also got a retirement visa, also known as the Sarawak Malaysia My Second Home program. This program is specifically designed for early retirees and regular retirees looking to live in Malaysia on a permanent basis. If you have been following what happened to the Malaysia My Second Home program over the past year or two, you're well aware of the changes executed by the Malaysian government, and the changes were focused on the Peninsular Malaysia My Second Home program. If you want to apply for the Peninsular Malaysia My Second Home program, you are required to have an income of 40,000 ringgit a month and a net worth of 1.5 million ringgit. I know that these figures are out of reach for a lot of people, so what I want to propose to you is the Sarawak Malaysia My Second Home program. If you are familiar with Malaysia but don't really know what the Sarawak Malaysia My Second Home program is, let me give you some information. Basically, there is West Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur, Johor Bahru, and Penang, also Langkawi. Those places are all located on West Malaysia. We take a look at East Malaysia. That's where we have Sarawak and Sabah. Those are different states Malaysia has to offer. The Sarawak Malaysia My Second Home program is still intact and it hasn't been altered. I think this is good news because a lot of people don't have a super high income of $10,000 a month, because to have a pension of $10,000 a month or Social Security that pays that much would be very difficult to achieve for a lot of people. The Sarawak Malaysia My Second Home program only requires single applicants to have a monthly income through a pension, Social Security, some kind of retirement plan, right, of 7,000 ringgit, which comes down to about $1,700 a month. That's if you're a single applicant. Should you apply as a couple, you are required to have an income of 10,000 ringgit a month, which comes down to about $2,300 to $2,600, depending on the current US dollar to Malaysia ringgit exchange rate. One of the good things about the Sarawak Malaysia My Second Home program is that you are not required to make a bank deposit in the event that you can prove this monthly income. You're also not required to invest in real estate. It is just an option. Sarawak's government is offering you to purchase property in the state, but you don't need to qualify. You don't need to meet these three requirements. It's either or. So you either have the income of 7,000 ringgit a month if you're a single applicant, 10,000 ringgit a month if you apply as a couple, or deposit $300,000 into a local bank account. Half of that money can later be used for things such as children's education, healthcare, and so on. Or that you simply make a real estate purchase in Sarawak. The same holds true for applicants 30 years or older who do not have a pension but have an offshore income of at least 7,000 ringgit a month if they're applying individually, or 10,000 ringgit a month if they are applying as a couple. And the good thing about the Sarawak Malaysia My Second Home program is that you only need to live in Sarawak for 15 days per year. That means you can apply and you can obtain the Sarawak Malaysia My Second Home pass and use it to live in other areas that Malaysia has to offer. Let's talk about digital nomads, tech entrepreneurs, crypto investors. You know, any person that has some kind of technology company, some kind of technology income, who wants to live in either Thailand or Malaysia. What options do you guys have? Basically, in Thailand, they have a visa called the Smart Startup Entrepreneur Visa, which is designed for tech entrepreneurs. So people who are involved in any of the mentioned tech sectors. So you need to qualify. You need to be in one of the sectors in order to obtain this visa. One of the good things about the Smart Startup Visa is that there's no minimum age requirement. So pretty much anyone can apply. Of course, you need to be older than 18 years, but anyone can apply. However, if you are a completely new tech entrepreneur with no existing company in Thailand, then you can initially get a 6-month visa with the contingency that you attend an incubation or accelerator program in Thailand, which are currently available in Bangkok and Phuket. Then you have the option to extend. You can do a 1-year visa, but only once you attended the incubation or accelerator program. You're eligible to bring your wife and children. Once you incorporated the company and you attended all the necessary programs, then you're eligible to apply for the 2-year startup visa. And again, this is a great option for somebody who wants to live in Thailand for the mid to long term. And again, you can bring your children and spouse to Thailand. So Thailand has a few requirements in order for you to obtain this Smart Startup Visa. So first of all, you need to attend all these programs, and you obviously need to incorporate a local company. And the thing in Thailand is that a foreigner can't typically own 100% of a Thai company. There are exceptions, but in most cases, you're going to need a Thai partner. How does this look in Malaysia? Malaysia also has a tech entrepreneur program. In fact, they have 2 options. They have the new entrepreneur program, which is designed for tech entrepreneurs. Again, you need to fall into one of the eligible categories. It's for new entrepreneurs looking to incorporate a company in Malaysia. This is initially issued for a 1-year period. And within the 1-year period, within 12 months, you must incorporate a company in Malaysia. You must open up a bank account, and once the government has seen substantial progress, you can extend this visa for an additional year, and after time, multiple years, depending on your business performance. There's obviously requirements here as well. You need to have savings of at least 50,000 ringgit, 10,000, 12,000 bucks, about 10,000 euros. And you're also required to have a good criminal record certificate, so you can't have any charges, you can't have anything bad on your criminal record certificate. In case you have an existing profitable company overseas and can prove revenue from at least 2 years, then you may apply for the established entrepreneur visa, which allows you to get an initial 5-year visit pass for Malaysia. Now, the 5-year visa obviously is a lot more appealing because you get 5 years instead of 1 year. And once you qualified for the established entrepreneur visa, you can live in Malaysia for 5 years. There is a requirement added on top, which is that you have a financial track record. So the Malaysian government, the department in charge of issuing this visa, they want to make sure that you are a person capable of running a business in Malaysia. They want to see that you have a proven track record. They want to see that your business has generated significant revenue. So they want to see your tax returns. They want to see your profit loss statements. They want to see all these financial figures for them to issue a 5-year entrepreneur visa. Now that we talked about the visa situation in both countries, I really hope that you've gotten a better picture. Again, we have options for retirees, for professionals, for tech professionals, but let's talk about living in both countries. Where should you live? Taking a look at Thailand, if you want a vibrant scene, if you want a vibrant lifestyle, if you want to live in a big metropolitan, then Bangkok is where you want to be. And Bangkok has so many areas where you can rent that are definitely suitable for a foreigner, because the standard of living in Thailand is much higher than in its neighboring countries like Vietnam, Cambodia, the Philippines, Indonesia, Laos, Myanmar. Those countries have a much lower standard than Thailand. So Bangkok has a lot to offer in terms of entertainment. If you're an entrepreneur, if you're a business person who is intending to attend regular meetups, if you want to network, if you want to mingle with people in your artistry, then Bangkok is definitely where you want to be. Bangkok has so many benefits. You have good public transportation in Bangkok, something that would be very difficult to have in a place like Ho Chi Minh City. So Bangkok has a lot going on. But if you want to have a more relaxed lifestyle, if you're a retiree and you want to be closer to the beach, you want to have a quality of life, you want to have better air quality, you want to be in nature, you want to have beach access 24/7, and you want to have a beautiful scenery to wake up to, then you want to consider either Phuket, the island of Phuket, or potentially, Suratani, which is also a very popular residential area for retirees. The good parts about living on the island of Phuket, it's a slower paced lifestyle. And I would say enough going on for you not to get bored. So even if you're, somebody at my age, if you're like in your 30s, if you're in your 40s, Phuket still has a lot going on. It has very good international flight connections. You can fly from Phuket into Germany, there's a couple more flights into Europe, I believe, and it's very well connected, so it's a very short flight if you want to travel to Bangkok, Kuala Lumpur, Singapore. Another place you may want to consider is Chiang Mai in northern Thailand. Chiang Mai does not have the beach, so for me personally it's a no-go, but for people that love mountains, they want to live a little bit at a higher altitude, want to have a more relaxed lifestyle, they don't need the big thrilling city, then Chiang Mai is definitely where you could be living as well. There is a lot of digital nomads in pretty much all places in Thailand. You have a lot of them in Bangkok and Chiang Mai and Phuket. So just because you're living in Chiang Mai does not mean you lose access to a great digital nomad community. In fact, most digital nomads live in Chiang Mai. Malaysia is a fantastic country. It's the country where I started my digital nomad journey in Southeast Asia. And I started at a very different location than most people would think. I started it in Kuching, Sarawak. And I've been there for a good amount of time. I've lived there from 2011 to 2014. And what I really enjoyed about Kuching, Sarawak is how laid back it was. And in Kuching, Sarawak, you have many different cultures. You don't just have the Chinese, the Malay, the Indians. You also have the local tribe people, the Aboriginals, if you want to call them that, the Bidayu and the Ibans. And I really enjoyed living in Kuching because it was much slower paced than a place like Singapore, Bangkok, or Kuala Lumpur. And there's a lot of retirees living there. So if you want to live in a more obscure location but have a great high standard of living, and being an English-speaking country, and that's, by the way, something I forgot to mention about Thailand. If you want to live in Thailand permanently, especially in one of the rural areas, you're probably not gonna get by with English. You need to learn the local language, you need to learn Thai. In Malaysia, most Malaysians speak English fluently. That's one of the key benefits that I really enjoyed while living in Malaysia. If you want a thrilling lifestyle, if you want to be in Malaysia's top metropolitan, then Kuala Lumpur is where you want to settle down. Kuala Lumpur is a pretty big city. I personally lived in Petaling Jaya, which is outside of Kuala Lumpur. If you want to, go from Petaling Jaya to Kuala Lumpur by car, depending on traffic, it's roughly 30 minutes. It can take much longer than that if you travel back and forth during rush hours. But if you want to be in the heart of the city, you want to consider Bukit Bintang. It's pretty good. And what I want to say about living in Kuala Lumpur, because a lot of people don't like Kuala Lumpur as much as Bangkok. They think that, people there are not as open, they're having problems integrating in the culture. Technically, Malaysia is a Muslim country, but it's not a strict Muslim country, it's a relaxed Muslim country. You have, again, the Malays, you have the Chinese, you have the Indians, and in Kuala Lumpur, you have people from all over the world doing business in the city. If you want to have access to a great digital nomad community, to a tech entrepreneur community, there's a lot of Singaporeans living in Kuala Lumpur. There's a lot of people from the US living in Kuala Lumpur, a lot of Europeans, Australians. There's a ton of people, highly skilled people living in Kuala Lumpur. You're going to have access to that. And I would want to say Kuala Lumpur is a thrilling city. It has a lot to offer. Just outside the city, in case you want to get out of the humid weather, you can go up to Genting Highlands. Very nice place. I've been there several times and I really enjoy that. If you want to go to the beach, plenty of options. You know, if you have a car, within a 2 to 3 hour drive, you get to a lot of places. Another city I wanted to discuss with you is Penang, located in the northern part of West Malaysia. One of the good things about Penang is very similar options here as a place like Phuket is the great infrastructure. You know, from Penang, Malaysia, you have flights to pretty much everywhere in Asia. You know, you can fly to Kuala Lumpur, you can fly into Thailand, you can fly into Singapore, you know, you have flights, I believe, to South Korea. You have so many options. One of the things I really like about living on the island of Penang is the variety, because Penang is a place, you know, where you can get pretty much everything. You have Georgetown, a nice city, a lot to offer, very cultural, ton of food courts. If you want to take the train from Butterworth, Penang to Kuala Lumpur Central, I think it's about 4 to 4.5 hours, costs about $20. And great connection because, you know, it connects you from the northern part of West Malaysia to the capital, Kuala Lumpur. Great infrastructure, and the internet works well in Penang, and I would say pretty much throughout the whole country. Something that cannot really be said about Thailand. You know, the internet on the islands of Thailand can be a little bit shaky at times, whereas on the island of Penang, never had a problem. Whereas, you know, in Kuching, Sarawak, never had a problem. Kuala Lumpur, fantastic. I mean, Malaysia has great internet. And the last thing is, of course, the dating scene. I'm going to bring up a few controversial points here because I've heard from so many people, oh, dating in Malaysia is bad. So when I started dating in Malaysia, I was pretty young. I was in my early 20s. But a lot of people say, oh, dating in Malaysia is bad because it's a Muslim country. Well, that holds not true because you don't need to be dating Malays. You can be dating Chinese, you can be dating Ibans and Bidayus. And a lot of people don't even know those ethnicity groups because they haven't lived on the island of Borneo. They haven't lived in Kuching, Sarawak, or Miri, Cebu. I've been to these places. I've lived in these places, so I can tell you the experience. So if somebody tells me, well, dating in Malaysia sucks, they just don't have the whole experience. You know, you can't say that dating in Indonesia is fantastic if you have only dated in Bali, because Bali is the only island of Indonesia with a majority of non-Muslims. What I want to say is that I've dated in Malaysia, I've dated Chinese, I've dated Ibans, and they were very open-minded, they were very friendly, they were very inclined to date people outside their culture. Have I dated a Malay? No, I haven't. And that's the key differentiating factor that I wanted to bring up. If you're in a country with different cultures and you have had bad luck dating, you know, someone from a specific ethnicity group, you can't really say that it wouldn't have worked for the other ethnicity groups if you haven't tried it. That's what I wanted to bring up there. There's also a lot of Indonesians living all over Malaysia. You have a ton of them in Kuala Lumpur, you have a ton of them in Kuching, you have a ton of them all over Sarawak. And you have a ton of Filipinos living in Sabah. People that haven't lived in those places, they don't have that insight. They don't have that information. So if they have just gone to Kuala Lumpur and they tried dating in Kuala Lumpur and failed, they think it would be the same throughout the country, but that doesn't hold true. And that's again my personal experience. What about dating in Thailand? Dating in Thailand is easier for a number of reasons. First of all, the country has been open to international tourists for decades, so people are used to seeing foreigners. And in Thailand, we really only have one culture. Another thing why dating in Thailand is easier is because the median wealth per capita is lower than it is in Malaysia. They also got to factor that in. You know, if you want to date in a country where people make more money, where people have more money, you know, they're not going to be as receptive, they're not going to be as open to dating foreigners because they just don't need to. They don't need the upgrade. I'm not saying that's true for all Malaysians, but for some of them it is. One of the downsides of dating in Thailand is that you are going to run into a lot of women that don't speak a single word of English. Now that we have discussed both countries, where would you rather live, Thailand or Malaysia? Leave a comment below and let us know. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. I'm uploading new videos on digital nomad locations, travel updates, visas, crypto advice and business advice several times a week right now. I highly recommend that you grab a free copy of my ebook Nomad Elite, the Insider's Guide to Retaining a Life of Freedom. All you need to do is click on the link below the video. And if you got some more time left, check out these videos. Thank you for watching.